Hi everyone, it's Emmy Velez. This is my chapter presentation on Chapter 6, which is social policy that helped combat the Great Depression. So, to give some background to the Great Depression, during the 1920s, the progressive movement stopped after World War I, so this led to the rise of conservatism. Three key presidents leading up to this were Warren Harding, Calvin Coolidge, and Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover is the main president involved after World War I, and he lost to FDR in 1932. So, a synopsis of conservatism: the second industrial revolution was happening. So, cities were growing, factories were expanding, and policies with that were taking place. Trickle down economics was the thought that if the wealthy and the affluent were succeeding, then everyone else in society would as well. Social reformers and the rise of social work grew rapidly during this time. There was a lot of happening with factories and children and women and people of color. So there was a lot of social reform going on at this time. And then the glamorization of science and technology were taking off with industrialization. Moving on to the turning point of this time period, the Great Depression. So the stock market crashed in October of 1929. Essentially, what happened was stocks were on the rise and investors were relying on credit. Well, when stock prices fell, investors were panicking and decided to sell, leading to stock prices to fall more. And this panic moved from the banks because people were losing money with stocks. And then when they found out the banks could not keep up with the work, people started draining their savings from the banks, and banks just lost all of their reserves, and the economy fell as banks and the stock market crashed. So this led to businesses lowering prices so that people could buy products, which led to layoffs, which led to unemployment, which led to product demand decline, and it was a vicious cycle that no one could get out of. So for a timeline, during 1932, President FDR was elected, but during this time, Herbert Hoover was still in office. Unemployment, stock market failure, bankruptcy, and war were really president, and he did pass the Reconstruction Finance Corporation, but didn't help much. And then FDR was elected. He passed a lot of reforms with the help of his wife Eleanor. And then institutionalized reform, with a permanent number of reforms and through 1935, 1937. And then after that, there was a policy stalemate where there was momentum that was lost, the era of pullback with World War II rising, and then World War II, which started in 1945. So the impact of the New Deal and the role of social workers. The New Deal had a bunch of policies that helped create jobs for many Americans and helped give relief to many Americans. So, for example, there was the FERA, or the Federal Emergency Relief Administration, which helped state and local governments with finances. The food programs like the SNAP, aka the food stamps, that helped give meals to people. The CWA, PWA, CCC, NYA. These are all examples of policies that were formed. There was also the creation of Social Security. In addition, FDR tried to bring back trust to banks and the stock market. And social workers played a vital role because charities were emerging, agencies were emerging, casework was really extreme with finances, hospitalization, rights of women and people of color, and the Red Cross was vital to the success of World War II, which brought momentum to the profession as well. So thank you for listening to my chapter presentation. This was all about the Great Depression and Chapter 6.